Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And we are the hosts of the Jedi Enclave Presents. Now, this is Podcasting Podcast, your weekly podcast about all things Star Wars and other nerd adjacent things that we happen to be watching or happen to enjoy in general.
I like how we did those introductions before the beginning animation had like fully finished.
Well, because you want to like... It's like,
well, yes, but no one knows which one of us is which because they couldn't see us.
Oh, I don't give a fuck. They can just guess. I was taught by my saxophone teacher that when you're performing, when you do if you do an encore, and this followed me as a conductor as well. You might now understand this when I tell you. I was taught that when you do your final piece and you have an encore, which for you non-musical folks is kind of a gift you give to the audience for
an unscripted additional piece
after applause as kind of a thank you for being cool and everything, that you're not supposed to wait for the applause to die. You're supposed to wait about 2/3 and then like right after the peak of the applause, before anyone has finished clapping, you're supposed to start your thing, because
you don't want anyone like starting for the aisles and leaving. Yeah, and
I'm not exactly sure why it follows the same concept as like when politicians, Barack Obama did this a lot. Like when he would speak, he would shout through applause instead of stopping in between every point. Yeah. And would just like, it just gets them like it gets people like excited and frantic about shit. So I would always do that when I was conducting orchestras as well. You come out, you bow for the applause, and then you turn and you start Stars and Stripes Forever at a ridiculously fast speed, and then everyone really loves it. Oh, Piccolos, fuck you. If you're a musician, you'll understand that. Even if you're not. Today on the old agenda is Star Wars: The Acolyte season finale, which was last night. Some surprising shit happened.
Yeah.
I think next week we're gonna kind of re-rate our live action Star Wars shows.
Okay.
And put Acolyte in there somewhere. I want a week to live with it before I make any determinations on that.
That's fair.
House of the Dragon season 2 episode 5, Regent. And then
where we did a lot of decompressing.
Yep. And then The Boys. Season 4 episode 7, which will be
is that really episode 7?
Yes. The episode, so the season finale happens tonight, which means that this discussion is irrelevant because by the time that it gets out on our actual podcast, it'll be 2 days after the season finale ends. So like whatever. But it's like The Boys. I really enjoy The Boys, but it isn't going to change our podcasting schedule like a Star Wars show would. Yeah. So it's like, you know what? I don't care. Yeah. If you're here for the podcast, by the way, since I mentioned it, on Saturdays, we release our full podcast on YouTube. You should check that out. And the time codes for our discussions will be in the description of the video. And you can see where the spoiler-free content is and we'll also warn about spoilers. Well in advance. And then thank you to Connor at the Star Wars Hub and Star Wars Veritas. And then since you guys are all amazing, cool guys or people
and girls and
people,
non-binary humans,
like and subscribe and share it. Share us with someone who will enjoy it or someone who won't. Yeah. That's up to you. And then join us on Discord.
Share it with that one person on your friends list who thinks the Acolyte is woke trash.
Yeah. So I can argue with him on Facebook.
Yeah.
Send him my way.
Like that's how Daniel gets his kicks.
Yeah.
Like the reason he's up until 2 a.m. is arguing with people on Facebook.
I will say, okay. So I will say a couple of things about our Facebook fan, which I'm really growing to love. First of all, we have our own meme.
Okay.
Which I didn't think would ever happen to us. I didn't think we'd ever get so... By the way, we almost have 3,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Shit.
Remember when last week I was like, oh my gosh, we went from 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers. Well, we almost have 3,000. Anyway, on Facebook, there is a guy that only mad reacts every post we make. His name is Wesley. And it became a meme because I noticed it and I posted about it. Like I took a screenshot because he mad reacted a post I made about saying that Graham McTavish, the guy that played Harold Westerling in House of the Dragon season 1, would make a good Balin Skull.
Okay.
Which I I very, very heartily believe.
Sure.
And there's no reason to mad react to that because it's objectively true. Like he would be amazing at it and he looks the part. And I know a bunch of you guys want Liev Schreiber to play. Someone said Danny DeVito, which I was like, you know what? Fine. You know what?
If he can make it work, go for it.
But you know, he'd be great at it. And here comes Wesley with his mad react. So like I made a post about it and it became a meme where like there are people now on every post who will point out the Wesley appearance. And so like it just makes me happy that I brought that up because I had a disagreement a couple of weeks ago with someone. It was after the big battle episode in the Acolyte where everyone died, the episode where everyone died. And they're like, the person that was arguing was like, that's so fucking stupid that like the helmet just magically turns the lightsabers off. Like how much more are they going to break canon? And I was like, okay, so first of all.
So you've never heard of cortosis.
Yeah. Which means you've not read any of the books. And they're like, oh no, I've read all the novels and blah, blah, blah. And some of the EU is canon and some of it isn't.
No.
And I was like, okay, well, explain to me where the line is of where like the EU canon goes, like at what point does it stop being canon? And they said, I Jedi. And I was like, that's the book where cortosis is introduced. And then I call them a donk. I call them a fucking donk because my life on Facebook is a tight wire act of figuring out what I can call people without getting in Facebook jail. And I've perfected it. Okay. And I posted that and it's also become a meme. And so like I called someone a flaccid cornstalk the other day, which is also a thing that Facebook's algorithm won't really like be mad at because they're two like innocuous words mostly. Anyway, if you're into that shit, go check us out on Facebook.
And you too can argue with Daniel about tiny little points of Star Wars lore.
It's a pretty fun time. And then, so you're not doing our current campaign, our next campaign, I guess, of Gungans and Dragons, which is funny because I chat talked to you the entire episode because you weren't there.
Good.
And I knew you weren't going to go back and watch it. So, and I won't tell you what I said. It'll just be a mystery.
That's fine.
But it's a new system where we're like space pirates, and it's very elaborate and kind of crazy. Yeah. I do appreciate though that there are so many details that I don't need to figure out because they're just decided by a roll of the dice. So like my character so far is very educated.
Okay.
And is like nobility from this planet.
Okay.
That went into military school and flunked out.
Most of that tracks.
Yeah. And then like made a contact in military school because I'm trying to make my character like a Jack and Hagar faceless man assassin that like has a dragon or something or a dog. I'll take either one. But I didn't decide on any of those characteristics. Those were just dice rolls. Yeah. And I was like, I appreciate that at least that part of it's on autopilot because that's the part like that I don't love about D&D stuff. Is like, oh, fuck, I have to write an entire novel about this character I'm about to play. Anyway, it's a good time. You should check that out. What else? Battlefront this week. Yeah. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I hope. Next week, our podcast won't be on the regular day that it usually, or our live show won't be on the regular day because I have a gig on Wednesday night next week. But we'll keep you posted on when that's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We're going to talk about Star Wars: The Acolyte. And we're going to start with some spoiler-free thoughts and then go into spoilers. And then at the end of it, I'm going to pull up some comments that you guys made on Facebook earlier today that I asked for about your thoughts about how everything is going and or went, I guess, because it's kind of over now. So there's still a little bit of time to throw that in, those comments in.
So to start spoiler-free, I don't think I fully appreciated the cinematography in this show until this episode.
You know why I didn't appreciate it?
Why is that?
Because the episodes were too short. I know it's a. I know
you
it's a.
You say this about everything every single week.
I understand. Well, not House of the Dragon. They do episode lengths fucking great, and give them credit. This was a longer episode.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why you appreciate the cinematography more.
But they do a whole bunch of like wide shots of like
alien vistas
and just landscapes in general. And it's
a planetary ring.
It looks good.
It was kick-ass. That whole sequence was fucking kick-ass. Two big cameos, and I can say what they are. One of them was not a huge shock. The other one was a huge shock, but it probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Both of them, I think, had people like, and one of them was like, oh, God, what the fuck was that all about? They had a really good introduction for a character we all wanted to see in the show. And by the way, this is one of those things where like Star Wars series, like, oh, fucking blah, 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 better be in this show or I'm going to fucking riot or whatever. And like it happened. I think he's still bitching about it because that's how he makes money.
Because he's never happy.
Yeah.
The fight scenes.
Mm-hmm. Good in this one. Yeah.
Pretty fucking good.
Both the lightsaber combat and the force combat.
And there's a little hand-to-hand combat. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Saul has a really neat, like, it kind of answers the question of if you just have Saul and Kamir in a room fighting, which one of them wins? Mm-hmm. It's not Kamir.
No.
And I think he was caught off guard in episode 5. But you should
he
not underestimate.
Yeah. He just watched all his friends die.
Poor fucking Jackie.
Yeah.
Yord.
Fucking Yord. I forgot Yord was in this show.
That's the most Yord thing to have happen to you. Is to just have everyone forget you were there. You know that was a wig he wore. His like, yeah, that's a wig. Yeah. There's a picture of one of the
actor who plays Yord, or
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I think there's a picture of like Jackie. Or the actor that plays Jackie,
Daphne Keane,
was like wearing it. It was like really goofy looking. Lee Jung-jae gives an acting performance that we don't often see in Star Wars, and I was like, "Damn, dude!" Like, they're doing a second season of Squid Game, and I think he was already going to be a part of it.
No.
You're going to see Lee Jung-jae in more stuff in general. I think
so, especially now that he knows English.
Yeah. So we also I appreciate that this show gave us a side of the Jedi that isn't explored in Star Wars too often.
Yes, the writing, not necessarily the dialogue, although the dialogue is pretty good, but just
I think it's basic. It's serviceable.
It's fine.
It's not Andor, but
the ideas and the plot points that they explored were very interesting to me.
I think it creates an interesting POV thing because I think that you see the Jedi in the movies through George Lucas's POV, like this. These are the good guys. They always do the right thing. They have no flaws because that's how he writes his characters because they're for kids. So it's good guy, bad guy, right? And that's all you need to know about any of them.
Fucking Darth Vader wears head to toe black armor.
Yeah, right.
Like George Lucas is not renowned for his subtlety.
Yeah, he's not a very subtle man. I appreciate that. So, and also I think by extension, you're seeing the films through the Jedi's POV. This, we do no wrong. Like, you know, it's like the Acolyte is told through like the Sith's POV where they're like, the Jedi are dicks, actually. Like none of you know this, but the Jedi are dicks.
Well,
which is a sentiment I kind of agree with a little bit.
It was kind of Leslie Headland's whole goal, judging from some interviews about this show, because like she wanted to explore the side of the Force and the Jedi Sith conflict that we don't see.
Yeah,
which is part of why it was set at the time that it's set, because that's when the Sith are at their weakest.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I understand what you're saying. And also the only part of the Jedi Sith conflict that we've seen are just a few battles, like, you know, Dooku versus there was someone on Facebook today that was like, well, Dooku wasn't actually a Sith, and it's like, bitch, he was Sidious's like legitimate apprentice. He was a card carrying Republican Sith, like that's what he was. And then he got his head chopped off.
The GOS, the good old Sith.
Yeah. Oh God. So like I enjoyed that whole POV thing. We already said stuff about the lightsaber stuff. There are so many open threads at the end of the show that are clearly meant to be explored in later episodes.
They are 1,000% doing another season.
Yeah. I think one of the weaknesses of this show, other than the episode lengths, are there might be too many threads. It seems like maybe they threw a lot of stuff at the wall and saw what kind of worked. I think they need to pare down and focus a little bit more on the second season. And it wouldn't surprise me if they do.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of things that are just hanging around and we're trying to figure them out. So anything else you want to say about it?
No, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, this episode just happened last night, and we're going to spoil it. So if you've not seen it, please.
We're not judging you. We don't know your life.
Yeah.
But you really want to go watch this.
Yeah. Look away and come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you may recall the previous episode ended with Osha putting on the Cortosis helmet and just sort of breathing.
Yep.
And this episode opens very similarly. There's the Lucasfilm logo and Osha is breathing and Kamir just kind of walks up and like laughs at like, shit, I didn't think you'd actually put that on.
You have no idea how fucking goofy you look in that thing.
Then Osha like twitches and does like horror movie contortions and Kamir's like, oh shit.
Yeah, he's like, you're not hot anymore. No, I don't want that.
Let me get that off. Yeah. And then he does like he falls to his knees and like his eyes do the black thing.
Yeah, let's break this down for a second. I'm pretty sure that she's instinctively possessing him.
Yes.
Right. Because at first it was not clear to me exactly what was happening here.
Well, he had mentioned before that like in it's sensory deprivation. It's just you and the Force and what you bring with you.
Right.
And that
it probably also amplifies your,
by virtue of the fact that you have nothing else to focus on.
Right. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. And props to Kamir, by the way, for being taken off guard, but still having the mental fortitude to push through it and take the helmet off.
Yes.
Because he was like, I don't like where this is going.
Yeah. Well, none of that. Like he is explicitly having to fight against the witchy possession that we saw Torben couldn't work through.
Yeah.
Kalnaka couldn't work through it.
Kamir with black eyes, just as hot as Kamir without black eyes, I will say.
Oh, okay.
He looks, he's a tall drink of water throughout this entire episode.
Mm. So he like pulls the helmet off her and Osha like screams and Osha's like, okay, so that was fucked up. But I saw May like with her hand stretched out killing Sol without using a lightsaber. And Kamir's like, well, shit, she can actually do it. Cool. Osha's like, but the future's not fixed. As anyone who watched The Empire Strikes Back will know, always in motion the future is. So I'm going to go stop her.
Which is funny because I'm pretty sure that that's like a more responsible approach to getting visions. Yeah. Where the Sith are generally like, this is happening. We must either stop it or make it happen, you know?
So Kamir's like, okay, but how the fuck are you going to get there? It's my ship.
Yeah. He's like, I haven't given anyone permission to ride on my ship yet.
Yeah. Osha's like, well, I know where we're going. And Kamir's like, well, shit, I guess we'll both go.
Foiled again.
Yeah.
Just like, I'll get an Uber.
You may also remember, I guess this was 2 episodes ago, technically, that May was strapped to the bed in the ship and Sol was talking to her for that whole flashback.
It was a little weird actually, because she was very vulnerable to him.
In his defense, she is a double murderer.
Oh yeah, like right. I'm not saying he was wrong. I'm just saying it felt a little weird. Yeah, and it's still so like the way the scene opens still feels a little weird. There's something about it where like the fact that she's tied up and he's
and like presumably he was talking at her for half hour to an hour going through the flashback.
Right. By the way, you think that she's like, oh my God, he just will not shut up. Yeah. In fact, she uses that. She's like, you know what?
This guy really likes the sound of his own voice.
Why don't you monologue a little bit more and I'll use, I guess, evil Pip?
Yeah.
Or just like...
Well, we'll get there because there's a little bit here.
Yeah, I don't want to go line for line through this.
Okay. So Sol is like, look, I'm going to call Vernestra and the Jedi. They're going to come out here. I'm going to prove that there's virgins on this planet. And May is like, what are you going to prove? That you were justified in killing my mom all those years ago? Because that was kind of fucked up. So Sol is like, look, we were completely justified in what we were doing on the planet. I'm sorry your mom died. That was an accident. But like the Jedi can do no wrong.
This is kind of a thread that... So I've seen discourse about this, about Sol's character a little bit, because this is a thing that like comes up a couple more times. And like it does reek of arrogance, right? But he's not necessarily an arrogant man. You know what I mean?
I think it's a combination of the institutional arrogance of the Jedi.
I think he's indoctrinated.
And Sol, and Sol's own overwhelming compassion. Like that is the dominant character trait.
Yeah,
of his.
I agree, and I think that the Jedi are indoctrinated into thinking that it is their sole responsibility to make things right that aren't right, and that no one else can do that but them, because of the power that they're trusted with and everything. And I appreciate that Saul's character is complex enough where we fall in love with him mostly because of the acting. And I think that he wants to do the right thing so badly, but his character is complex enough where he doesn't realize that what he wants isn't necessarily the right thing.
He's human enough that even like he has to believe that he's doing the right thing to the point where he like goes back and justifies it even when the evidence is against him.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true. I ended up appreciating his character all the way through the end of this episode because it's like
very well written character.
Yeah, and I get that he so genuinely wants to do a good thing. I just think that all the Jedi are just
flawed.
And that's another point that came up on social media today. Like someone was bitching about their writing is like, and you're telling me that like the Jedi lied about the Sith, and it's like, yeah, that's what's in the like. First of all,
because the Jedi as an organization are made up of humans and other sentient beings who are
imperfect beings. Yeah. And they're kind of rotten to their core because not only are they imperfect, but they've enjoyed, millennia of privilege. And so having this story told where it is makes it a little bit more believable that in just 100 years, all it took was just a little push.
Yep.
And it just took the whole fucking thing down. Yep. And it wasn't necessarily because Sidious was some mastermind genius, which he was.
He was. It was the Jedi's own hubris.
Yeah, he knew just the spot, just a little tap in that one spot, and all of it just came crashing down.
So Soul is like, look, I'm sorry I couldn't save the both of you. Like, you're not twins. You're not even sisters. And before he can finish this dramatic reveal, Osha has finished breaking out of her handcuff with Evil Pip.
And she's like, zap.
Yeah, she jams him in the chest with electric pry. He's like, oh, shit.
He's like, motherfucker.
So she breaks out and goes right into the escape pod, and Soul tries to chase after her. And we get a few shots of Basil lurking around in the background.
Whose fucking team is he on, by the way? A little bit later, we'll talk about something he does a little bit later. Oh, also, I will say my partner loves cutesy fucking things and shows, right? Like, we watched some of the gameplay from Star Wars Outlaws, and Kay Vess, the main character, has like a little
dog cat
thing and he's always the first person in the room is like, right?
Yeah.
We're watching this show last night. He's like, I fucking hate that thing. Like, Jesus, why?
So May gets in the escape pod, and Soul goes running up to the bridge to chase after her. May goes flying into these planetary ice rings, and Soul.
Oh, this sequence is so cool. Yeah, and the reason I brought Basil up is because like there's a moment where it's like Saul has her in his targeting thing.
He's powered up weapons. He looks like he's trying to psych himself off to shoot her,
or maybe like just like graze a wing or something.
And Basil just reaches into a console, pulls out some wires, and power fails for the engine.
And it's like, okay, first of all, he's a Jedi. Like, he probably has the skill. Like, he's probably not just going to blow out of the fucking sky.
What I think is happening is Basil was protecting Soul from himself.
Like, I think he's making a lot of assumptions for a tiny little fucking gopher. Is all I'm saying.
Well, as you said, they're supposed to be very intelligent. Yeah. I think Basil, on some level, thinks that Soul will regret this if he does it.
This is what happens when you bring an alien like that just to be a tracker and nothing else. You're like, I just need you to sniff this. Like, I need you to sniff this this pair of panties, and then like go find this person.
And meanwhile, the tracker's like, I have 4 PhDs.
Yeah, I'm a physicist. Like, what the fuck?
So, like, his ship like careens to the side, like bumps hers, and she goes tumbling.
That ship fucking full on tips over.
Yeah.
And the whole sequence is really neat because there's like this space between two different ice rings that's big enough for her smaller ship to fly through, not really big enough for the like Saul's ship, but he's like, we'll be fine.
We're gonna make this work.
It might be a little bumpy. Just hang the fuck on.
So speaking of bumpy, her ship goes fucking tumbling down and like crash lands on Brendock. So back on Coruscant, Vernestra Rowe goes to see Senator Raincourt. And this scene,
we got to talk about this guy.
I almost have to go line by line because there's a lot of consequential stuff they say.
Yeah. Let me just say, I find it weird that the guy that plays Raincourt is pretty fucking cool. Like, there's something he has an aura where I was like, you saved this motherfucker for the last episode, and when we get through everything, I've got like a list of questions about like where the fuck is this going. But let me just say that this guy's performance had me like the entire time through every scene he's in, like, who the fuck is this guy? Because I have a couple of ideas actually about him.
Okay, so Raincourt is like, oh, Vernestra, I was very surprised to hear you went out to the Outer Rim. I thought your hyperspace sickness was real bad. And she's like, I'm fine now. What the fuck do you want? He's like, well,
do you think she gets really like?
I think she gets extremely sensitive.
Does everyone know about my hyperspace thing?
So Raincourt is like, well, I've heard some disturbing rumors that you're investigating a murder and not informing the Senate about it. Vanessa's like, yeah, I can do that as long as there's no greater threat. And Raincourt's like, okay, but what if there is a larger threat? And Vanessa's like, look, there is no larger threat. All the victims were Jedi.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Raincourt's like, wait. There are multiple victims?
Yeah. She was like, oh, maybe I shared a little too much. Yeah.
Vanessa's like, I am very close to apprehending the suspect.
He's like, that's not better.
There's nothing to worry about. Raincourt's like, is the suspect a Jedi? Vanessa's like, I am very close to apprehending the suspect.
The suspect may or may not be a Jedi.
Now fuck off.
There's a non-zero chance that the suspect isn't a Jedi.
Yeah. Raincourt's like, okay, I will fuck off, but before I go, you don't like me very much, do you? And Vanessa's like, nope. No, I do not like you at all. Raincourt's like, okay, great. So as long as we're being completely honest, I think the Jedi are an unaccountable cult of unbelievable power, claiming that you have full control over your emotions, but we both know that's bullshit. Someday, maybe in, hypothetically speaking, 100 years or so, some guy, let's just call him like Skynekin Anawalker, is going to snap. And then you're all going to be fucked. Right. Yeah. And the rest of us too.
Yeah. So the rest of us at home are crossing our arms saying, you know what? He's out of line. But he's right.
Vanessa is like, okay.
The second time this event has been foreshadowed on the show, by the way. I think someone else brought it up. I can't remember who. Maybe it's Kamir.
Maybe.
So someone mentioned something about the Jedi falling, like in the future or something.
So Vernestra's like, okay, well, that is an opinion, but not one that the Senate really shares. Raincourt's like, yeah, well, the Senate are idiots. That they would rather look up to their heroes so that they don't have to look at the mortal, fallible beings in front of them.
Yeah.
Vanessa's like, okay, did you want anything else, or are you just going to leave through this door that I'm opening through the Force? Totally not as an intimidation tactic, but just because I'm extra.
Yeah,
it was an intimidation
She was really
tactic.
like, oh, watch this. Can you do this?
Yeah. Raincourt's like, well, I told the Chancellor about your lack of transparency. Don't be surprised if you get called out on the carpet. Hopefully you've caught your perpetrator by then. May the Force be with you. Now fuck off.
I like how his final argument was, I told on you, bye.
Yeah. So Kamir and Osha are swooping into land, and then there's this funny gag where like Kamir tries to talk to her, and she just turns off his cockpit.
Oh yeah.
She's like, I don't know.
Are there two cockpits on this ship?
I think so. I think like one's in front of the other. Because if you look at the ship, like they have two engine things and like cross braces.
Yeah. Also, we have to go back because we.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I thought it was something else.
We have to go back before they leave.
Yes, I'm just about to get there. I leaped ahead in my notes. I'm sorry.
I was just thinking. I was like, wait a second. If they've left already.
So Kamir's like, you're seriously not going to tell us where we're going? And Osha's like, we're going together. That's only fair.
Yeah, this is back on Unknown Planet.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
Kamir's like, do you really think I am interested in being fair? Osha's like, well,
me who killed all of your Jedi friends.
Kamir's like,
and one of them was your crush.
Kamir's like, look, you really should be training in the Force. What do you say? And Osha's like, no. And Kamir like steps a little closer and kind of looks at her in the eyes and smolders a little. And he's like,
how about we kiss a little bit?
But seriously, how about it? Osha's like, I'm not May. Now fuck off.
Still no. Surprisingly, still no.
Kamira's like, you know, I guess you aren't May, because she didn't even think twice before saying yes. So they get on the ship and fly away. And as they're flying away, we get a shot of the cave entrance where there's this creepy, gross little hand that creeps up to the edge.
It's not a little hand, it's a big hand, actually.
And then from the shadows, we see like half of a face with a glowing red eye and
yellow eye.
Yellow eye and vaguely alien features.
Well, not vaguely alien. He's very clearly immune, and it's very clearly Darth Plagueis.
Yes.
And so this is one of the cameos I mentioned in the spoiler-free thing, where this was the one that I expected somewhere in the show, because I remember Leslie Headland saying that there were going to be 2 Sith characters by the end. So I was like, it's probably going to be Plagueis, I bet.
Either him or Tenebris, because that's how the timeline works out.
Plagueis, I think, is the one more people generally know about because he's the one that's mentioned in the film.
Yeah.
And if
like,
you've not...
Normies have no idea Tenebris even
exists. And you're right. If you've not read James Luceno's Darth Plagueis, like, you might not even know who Tenebris is. So I was like... So I figured that is probably a better chance that that's who it would be. I didn't realize it was gonna happen at this point in the episode, and just like this out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, oh, okay, we're gonna go to a different planet. Oh, what the fuck is this? And John and I just like stopped and stared at each other, and we're like, well, I guess Plagueis is in the show.
Was he just there the whole time?
And I knew that they weren't gonna. Yeah. What was he doing in there?
I don't think you want to know.
Do I want to know? I knew that them introducing Plagueis or Tanner, it didn't matter which one, was going to raise questions about the relationship between the Sith and Kamir. Because
Kamir clearly believes that he's a Sith.
Yeah.
Whether he actually is or not is...
I think this is on the list when we get to the end, because I have thoughts about this.
So on Brendock, you know, Sol has landed much more gracefully than May, and he turns on a homing beacon so the Jedi can find him, and goes off the ship and uses the Force to like sense May and goes running off, and Basil watches him go. So on Coruscant, Vernestra is talking to someone on the phone, says, I need to talk to him. It's urgent.
Oh yeah. Jesus, there are so many things. I need to put that on my list. Yeah. I totally forgotten about that, because there are like 2 or 3 Vernestra reveals where you're like, what the fuck is happening
going on here?
Yeah.
So she hangs up the phone, and Moog steps in and says, hey, we found Sol. He's on Brendock. Vernestra's like, okay, get my ship, get all of the Jedi. We're going. Moog is like, why do we need all the Jedi? Is there going to be a fight? Vernestra says there's going to be a resolution.
Which was her way of saying,
I don't know what the fuck Sol is doing, what he thinks he's doing, but we are going to figure it out right now.
She's like, someone's going to die, probably.
So Kamir and Mace, or Osha, swoop down on Brendock, and Osha's like, when you land near the fortress, and son of a bitch, they're already there. So Sol like sees their ship come in and just sort of glares suspiciously at it, and he looks around and starts yelling for May, and he hears the flashbacks to the conflict there. Kamir and Osha approach the elevator that goes up, and Osha's like, okay, we need to either fix the elevator or we need to go fucking climbing up the mountain like a bunch of crazies.
Let's just fix it.
And
because I don't know if I want to climb a mountain today.
And
Sol's like, I know how to climb the mountain.
And like in her head, she hears Kamir say, are you sure those are the only ways? And like she turns to look at him, and he's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. He pulls a Batman.
Yeah. So Sol is walking through the ruins. He comes to the place with the catwalks where he tried to save them, and like he's visibly
has a reflection about it. Yeah.
He's visibly shaken by this, and like goes back the other way. As he leaves, like May climbs up directly below where he was standing, and May is trying to find him, but winds up in her and Osha's old room. So Sol is still searching and shouting for May, and then Kamir suddenly appears behind him and is like, hey, thanks for leading me to her, and you know, we make a great team. So lightsabers come out and they fight, and it's a cool fight.
So I mean, Kamir always looks like a badass with a lightsaber anyway, but I enjoy the Sol fight in several different ways, but there's a shot of Sol backing up in a defensive stance to the hallway, and Kamir just walking toward him that took me to like Empire Strikes Back, like with Vader and Luke.
Yeah.
despite the fact that the dynamic is switched, where like I don't think Kamir realizes how out of his depth he is with Saul, just because like up until a little bit later, like Saul has kind of had the training wheels on a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think at one point during the fight, it was like, I'm taking those motherfuckers off, I think. Yeah.
So there's some, so like they fight, they go across the catwalk where the witches were having the arrows pulled and like they break that and go floating gracefully down to the courtyard.
Oh, there is some like serious crouching tiger, hidden dragon shit in this episode that I was really into.
So Soul's like, I will destroy you if I must. And Kamir's like, not if she kills you first.
He's like, what do you mean by that?
Huh? So like he pulls out the second lightsaber and they start fighting. And like at one point, Kamir throws both his lightsabers and Soul blocks them.
Oh, it's fucking. Well, he doesn't because he throws the lightsabers and they go behind him.
Yep. And he pulls them back with the Force.
Yeah. And then like
he goes to like jump punch and Soul's just like, no. And like Force
puts his lightsaber away, puts it on his belt, and is like, "Watch this," and like everything, like it's a really cool visual detail that like there's a shockwave first, and then like Kamir is like propelled backwards, and like his fucking lightsabers go who the fuck knows where, and then like. Because Saul is just a little extra sometimes, like lets everything happen, and he's like, "Oh, now I'll take my lightsaber out again."
All the Jedi are just a little bit extra.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know that some of these moves they've like practiced in the mirror before. They're like, it would look really fucking cool.
It's like fucking Yord like floofing out his cape so he doesn't sit on it. Yeah. So Osha finds May in their room and May's like, oh, hey, you're here. Like, please listen to me. Osha's like, all this death is your fault. You couldn't just let me be a Jedi. May's like, Soul lied to you. Like, Osha says Soul never blamed you. He tried to teach me that someone I love could do all this and I could never calm my negative emotions. And that's why I never became a Jedi. So I guess you won after all. How about that? May's like, Soul killed our mother. He's lied to you all this time. Like, how can he teach you to control your negative emotions when he's the reason you have them? Like, you didn't fail. He did. Osha, like, is on the verge of a nervous breakdown at this point.
Yeah, I don't think, like, Osha, ever since episode 5, Osha becomes more and more emotionally vulnerable. And she didn't start off in a particularly emotionally strong state to begin with, because she's arrested for a murder that she knows she didn't do and is kind of at the mercy of the Jedi. But like, she has to watch Jackie get murdered. She watches Yord get murdered. She hangs out with a super hot Sith guy who she's like, I would fuck probably.
If you hadn't just killed my friends.
Yeah. And even so. And then like this episode with the helmet, and it just like, she just like, I feel like her emotional strength just gets rubbed more and more down. And by the time we get to where this is going, she just like, she just can't cope with it.
So like she screams and charges at May, and they have a fist fight. And like at one point she's like, hey, you have Pip, and oh god, he squirted oil in my eyes.
Which, by the way, was her move with Pip against like the other guy in that one episode. I wonder if Pip will be a returning character in the second season.
I kind of hope so.
I hope he gets his memories back.
Yeah. At one point, they do an extended sequence of the same moves, like the same kicks, the same blocks.
Yeah.
It's cool. And when they pause, like they break away and like catch their breath, May is like visibly pretty composed, and Osha is still losing her shit. And they fight again.
Yeah, she's like developing like an eye twitch, and she's just like losing her shit.
And like so Kamir and Saul are still fighting, and they notice the Jedi ship come in. And Soul's like, now you're going to pay for what you've done. Kamir's like, oh, they're not here for me.
Yeah. I like how he's like, oh, my friends are here now. You're going to get your ass whooped.
Kamir's like, are you sure about that? So Osha and May also realize the Jedi are here. Like, Osha's looking up through a hole in the ceiling at the ship. And when she looks down, May is gone.
May has pulled a Batman.
Yep. So Soul and Kamir are still fighting, and they like do a saber lock, and Soul tries to burn through Kamir's hilt, and then they step back and like do the anime samurai dash through each other.
And they both stop. And everything.
They both stop.
Yeah.
And like,
I thought he killed Kamir. And I was like, damn, I mean,
for like half a second, it looks like he might have. And then like the top of Kamir's lightsaber breaks off.
And he's like, God damn it.
I worked so hard on this thing. You see this cool red crystal? You have any idea how emo I had to be to make it do that?
Also, like it came apart.
Yeah, it was so, man. So Kamir tosses it away and like takes his helmet off and turns around and sees Sol like pointing his lightsaber at his throat. But before anyone can do anything, May comes out of nowhere and fucking attacks Sol and takes his lightsaber. Kamir's like, hey, great job, May. Now fucking kill this idiot and your journey will be complete.
Kill him now.
May's like, no, I don't think I will. And just throws away his lightsaber. The lightsaber sort of breaks on a rock, like not breaks, but like breaks
Clinks.
open a little bit.
Yeah. Or does it?
Yeah. It does.
I don't think it break. I don't think
like there is an opening and like you can see the crystal.
Well, I thought you could see the crystal through just the emitter.
I don't think so, because like part of the handle breaks is the thing.
Yeah, but it works later on.
Yeah,
like it activates later
like
on.
It still works. Just like
I just thought I just thought that like if you took a lightsaber and like looked in one end, you could like see the kyber crystal.
Don't do that.
Yeah, you probably should.
If you're ever in a situation where you're holding an actual lightsaber, do not look directly into the emitter. It's like, no, I want him to confess his crimes before the High Council, the Senate, and the Republic, and I want him to pay for it. Sol's like, I did the right thing. I was trying to protect you two.
Yeah, even still, like
he still
like,
fucking
sticking
believes.
to this. Like I am the one in this situation that was righteous.
Yeah. Sol's like, you are not twins. You are the same person. Like, I have no idea how the fuck your mother did it. Probably with some weird space lesbian magic. But using the virgins on this planet, like she created like one person split in two bodies. Like that is some seriously fucking
That's
insane
fucked
power.
up. That's crazy.
Yeah. So as he's talking, like Osha approaches and picks up his lightsaber. And May is like, so you totally killed our mother, right? And so
he's like, she turned into a fucking smoke monster.
May's like, but you fucking killed him, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Again, smoke monster.
Osha's like, seriously? Because that's kind of fucked up, dude.
So if you were there, you probably would have swung a lightsaber at her too.
So I was like, look,
it was real scary.
I did the right thing. I was protecting. Osha's like, why didn't you tell the Jedi about that? And like, if you were so righteous and justified, why not just tell the Jedi? So I was like, look, without May,
they didn't ask.
Yeah. Without May, I couldn't prove how you were created. And I was just like, well, why didn't you tell me any of this? And so I was like,
you didn't ask.
They wouldn't have let you train. Like you were already too fucking old to train.
Yeah.
Like they made a lot of exceptions.
And it was my gift to you to be a Jedi. And yeah.
And like I was trying to protect you. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I couldn't. And Osha approaches and like she's tightly gripping his lightsaber. Like you can almost see the
more
veins
and more
popping.
unhinged. Just both eyes are twitching.
Yep. Yeah. She's like, just stop talking. And Sol continues to talk. And eventually he just starts choking.
He's about to tell her that he loves her.
Yeah.
He's like mid-sentence about to tell her that he loved her.
And like May and Kamir kind of like...
platonically, I think probably.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that would be really
like
weird.
Either like as a father or as a much older brother.
Yeah, right.
So like May and Kamir are a little weirded out when they realize that Osha is force choking him.
I think Sol is like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I noticed that he didn't really fight.
No,
he didn't really fight it either.
At all.
Yeah, which is, it's probably another entirely different thing for him. It's interesting that like this really terrible event happened that he was a part of, and
that he was clearly ashamed of because like he didn't want to talk to anyone about it.
But his training is to turn that off. And not deal with it, right? Because that's what the Jedi do. They turn their feelings off. They're supposed to turn their feelings off.
Yeah.
When, like, if he had told someone about what happened and let the emotions run their course and maybe gotten some fucking therapy about it, he might have walked away from that entirely fine.
Yeah.
But instead, he just buried it and smiled and was like, everything's fine. I'm going to go now be responsible for children.
So, like, as Osha is choking Sol, like, her hand is touching the crystal in the broken open lightsaber. And, like, there's some little sparks of it that start turning red, which is just a little bit worrying. So Sol is, like, gasping and says, Osha, it's okay. And Osha, like, kills him, chokes him to death. then falls to her knees. And May is looking on like, yeah, you fucking killed that guy. And Camille looks on with a very calculating look, I think.
There are a couple of moments in this scene where when they exposit information, like when Saul says, I don't know what it is about space lesbians, but you are both the same person in two different bodies. Camille's like, oh,
yeah,
that is weird.
That leads to a revelation here because, like, if they're the same person, technically May completed Khmer's mission to kill a Jedi without a weapon.
Yeah.
Because Osha did it.
Also, what is their, like, joined name?
I don't know.
Moshe?
Maybe.
O'Shea?
I think I like Moshe more.
OJ. Yeah.
We'll work.
I wonder if they'll just like fade into the same person at some point, because we made a joke about that, by the way, in like the second episode about how like, because May just like wanted them to be together all the time.
They just do the Dragon Ball Z fusion dance.
Yeah, they just like become the same person. Yeah.
So like Khmer is looking at her like either with admiration or like calculating, and like he walks over and like offers her a hand up, and Osha swings the lightsaber at him, and like the blade extends and it's blue, except it's turning red and more red, and oh god, it's completely red.
Yeah. First live action kyber crystal bleeding, which is kind of neat. The closest we've come to this so far is in Jedi Survivor, where one of the characters bleeds his lightsaber right in front of Cal Kestis, and Cal Kestis is like, okay, though, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
Like, is that allowed?
Yeah. So Vernestra and the Jedi get off the ship, and as soon as her feet touch the ground, like she senses something and reaches out in the Force, and Khmer immediately like snaps his head around like, huh?
So I like how, okay, so Khmer's reaction.
He's like a dog, like we hear something. Huh?
Yeah. I like how his reaction is, put the helmet on, run the fuck away. Yeah. He's like, nope.
Because if he
damn near dropped that helmet trying to get it on fast enough.
Like he's Vernestra's former student. He knows
obviously
what it means.
Yeah, they don't just come out and say it, but I'm pretty sure we're meant to assume it. Yeah.
Like he knows what it means that Vernestra is all the way out here.
And she senses him too.
Yes.
Interesting line she has.
She's like, oh, you're still alive.
Yeah. Which you're like,
that's interesting.
Khmer's like surprised.
So she's like,
your arrogance blinds you.
So she tells Jedi, look, I know where they are. We're going to go this way. So they go marching through the woods, and Basil shows up, and Mock's like, oh, hey, you're alive. Great. Cool. So May approaches Osha, is like, we need to leave right the fuck now. I know a way. Let's go.
I know the way.
So they go running into the ruins, leaving Sol's body behind, and they...
We have to take a minute also to mourn Saul's death. Though I assumed he would die. I don't think that this death came as a huge surprise, but it was
a little surprising to me.
Oh,
maybe I just wasn't reading the room.
I assumed that every person that saw Khmer's face would end up dead, or otherwise
unable to identify him.
Right. Particularly the Jedi, because the Jedi are the ones. Like, for example, like, let's say that Osha sees Khmer's face and then tells someone, who's going to listen to them? Like, people will listen to Jedi, right? So I kind of assumed that the Jedi, whoever saw him would end up dead. So I assumed that at some point Saul had to die as well. And it just, even still, a part of me was kind of hoping we'd see more of him in the second season. And,
a very selfish part of me that does not give a shit about Star Wars canon wants him to come back as a Force ghost, even though
it's not allowed.
He can't.
Okay. That is not mistaking Ki-Adi-Mundi Birthday. That is something that would be a crime against
that would canon. Be breaking canon.
Yeah. That would be a big problem.
So they go running into the fortress and like climb down the pit where May fell, and then they go off this tunnel. And so the Jedi arrive.
Tunnel.
Yeah, the Jedi find Sol's body, and Vernestra like hears the past confrontations to the Force.
Yeah, she can do so. Is this something that all Jedi, because Ahsoka does the psychometry thing too, and then
my understanding is it was originally something that like only a couple of Jedi had or were especially good at. Like it was Quinlan Voss's thing,
right? Yeah, he was kind of the first one that could kind of do it, where like it was like in a mainstream story, like on TV.
Maybe it's that like and then every Jedi can do it, just at differing levels of ability.
Well, so Cal Kestis can do it, and what's her name? The Jedi that rescues him.
I don't remember her name. Seer.
There you go. Yeah, acts like it's a kind of a big deal, or like a rare thing.
Yeah.
But then like Ahsoka can do it, and then
maybe it was just rare by.
Yeah, I guess out of 10,000 Jedi, we know about the 5 of them that could do it or whatever. Yeah. I guess that kind of makes sense.
So Vanessa's like, okay, all you Jedi fucking get out there, make a perimeter, go searching, just get the fuck out of here.
I see. Okay, so I really thought. So Saul in episode 5 brings, I think including him, there are like 8 Jedi.
Something like that,
right?
Yeah.
Vernestra shows up with like 20.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not fucking around.
I'm not taking any chances.
And I really thought maybe that this is going to end with Kamir killing all of them too. I was like, damn, like they love killing Jedi in this show.
So Vernestra's left alone with Soul's body, and she like kind of squats down next to it and looks it around and like brings her.
You see it from a far away, yes. It's like it's a far away shot.
Then we get a shot and it's Kamir kind of creeping down on her. And then Vernestra like gets up.
He's just watching her from around the corner, just like heavy breathing.
Yeah.
They're like,
and then she looks in that direction and he's gone.
Yep.
Has done the Batman again. So May and Osha go running through the woods. They eventually end up at the Bunta tree. Mm-hmm. And May's like,
to clear up any confusion here, I had to explain this to my partner. Bunta tree and the Bunta Eve Classic are 2 entirely different things.
Okay.
Spelled incorrectly. Okay. Or not incorrectly, but spelled differently. Yeah.
Okay. So May's like, yeah, I waited for you here. And Osha's like, I'm sorry. May's like, I'm sorry I started the fire. Like that was kind of fucked up. And Osha breaks down crying and May Osha starts reciting their rhyme, you're with me, I'm with you, blah, blah, blah. And May's like, who the fuck?
Yeah, I like how they're like, okay. So now that we don't have time to talk about this, let's talk about who taught us this fucking rhyme again?
Osha's like, I thought you made it up.
Yeah.
So then Kamir like force grabs the lightsaber away from Osha's like, look, if I can fucking find you, so can the Jedi. Like, we don't have time to be doing all
First
this.
lesson, we have to fucking leave.
Yeah. Like, while all this is happening, there are scenes of like Basil leading the Jedi through the woods towards them. And Osha's like,
they're just using him like a tracker now again.
Yeah. Osha's like, look, it's going to be fine. I'll tell the Jedi what Soul did. Kamir's like, after all this shit, you still believe in the Jedi? Like, are you seriously that stupid? Like, once they figure out how strong they are, May's like, they're going to fucking kill you, girl. Like, Osha turns to May and is like, okay, what do we do? May's like, well, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of life? Osha...
I could go for a Wendy's Frosty.
Yeah.
Let's go. Can we go to Wendy's? Kamir, can we go to Wendy's?
Would be a good choice.
It's your ship.
Instead, Osha walks up to Kamir and says, okay, look, you let May go and I will train under you. I will be your apprentice. May's like, are you sure about this? Like the Jedi will use me to find you. Kamir's like, well,
actually,
I have a solution for that.
Yeah.
I will just wipe her memory, remove all traces of both her and me.
Yeah.
And it'll work out great.
Which, by the way, I feel like this is one of those force powers that would require a vast talent to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't imagine they have a bunch of people running around that know how to do something like that.
Well, maybe it's not a power that you could learn from the Jedi.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So May's like, go ahead, do it. Osha's like,
from a Jedi.
Yeah. Osha's like, I don't want to lose you. And May's like, you're going to do what you're meant to do, and I'm not going to stop you this time.
Also, we're the same person, and I don't know how that really affects how we see things that are ours now.
Yeah, it's all kind of weird.
Or the concept of ours. I think it's just mine somehow between the two of us.
So Osha like turns to Kamir and holds out her hand, and Kamir hands over the lightsaber. She hugs May, and then they cry, and Osha's like, I'll find you. And they're reciting the rhyme, and while they're in the middle of this, like Kamir reaches out and starts doing his memory erasing, and May can't finish the rhyme because she no longer remembers
she forgot it. Yeah, and she's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. So Basil leads the
And
Jedi.
she's like, I don't know. I'm no one. See you later. Yeah.
So Basil leads the Jedi to the tree, and they find May, and Mog's like, you're under arrest. And May's like, for what?
For why?
So on Coruscant, like they lead May through the temple in cuffs.
Oh, okay. This is okay. So she goes to see Vernestra,
Yes.
right? And they walk her into the room, and she tells them to take the cuffs off, and then tells them to fuck off.
Yeah.
Did that not give you Palpatine Return of the Jedi vibes?
A little bit.
Where he just fucks off with the cuffs and tells the guards to leave them?
Not so much when I was watching it, but in retrospect, yeah.
I was like, damn.
Power move.
Yeah. It just kind of, I don't know if that was meant to, if we were meant to see that as a similar thing. Yeah. I don't know. After this episode, after this season, because I knew about Vernestra Rowe before the show, because I started reading the High Republic books. And especially after this episode, I am shocked at Vernestra's character development.
Yeah.
It just, I can't believe they're the same person.
I really feel like there's a lot of the middle of her life that we aren't seeing.
Yeah, she does.
That we haven't seen yet that might explain.
Yeah, she lives for quite, I mean, by the time we catch up with her in the Acolyte, she's like well over 100 years old. So, yeah.
So Vanessa's like, okay, clearly your memory's been fucked with. What do you remember? May is like, well, there was fire that destroyed my home and a man who killed my mother and I ran away and I needed to tell someone that I couldn't find.
I think there's a hot Filipino guy in there somewhere.
Vanessa's like, okay, so your last memory is from when you were 8 years old and you're like 26 now. So that's kind of suboptimal. So the man who killed your mother was a Jedi, and he was a great guy, kind, brilliant, compassionate.
Except for the killing part.
Except for, the terrible things.
Except for the he killed your mom part.
So Vernestra is addressing a room full of senators, and she's like, okay.
I like her fucking like drip. She's like kind of got like a dress thing going on, and she's got like the two rebellion firebirds.
Yeah, the Republic symbols.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, so once upon a time on Brendock.
Let me tell you the official Jedi story.
Let me tell you what actually happened. Yeah. There was a cult of witches, and
yes, they were all lesbians. No, it's not important to what I'm saying right now. Shut the fuck up.
Like there was some Jedi there investigating the planet, and they confronted the witches, and there were many casualties. Afterwards, the Jedi covered it up, but when the truth was about to come out, a rogue Jedi named Sol killed his accomplices to maintain his cover.
It was this moment where I was like, "What the fuck, dude? That is like
that's so fucked up.
That's insane."
And what makes this even worse? Like there are shots of like Vernestra on Brendock, like interacting with Sol's corpse, and one of them is
she apologizes. Yeah,
she says, "I'm sorry." Like even then, she knew that she was gonna have to cover this up.
Yeah, and I appreciate
she already had the story prepared then.
Yeah, it's which is gross, but and I do appreciate she gives him a proper Jedi burial, which is sets the motherfucker on fire.
Yeah,
but I was really like, the Jedi have fallen so fucking far. And especially when you consider the last the post-credit scene that doesn't happen. This episode ends with a post-credit scene. I think that if it were a Marvel thing, it would be at like
an actual post-credits. Yeah,
where it was just like, how far does this go? Like, how high does this go?
Mm-hmm. Well, Raincourt says, okay, we need to fucking review the Jedi externally right the fuck now. Bring out the auditors. And Vernestra's like, look, it was the work of one man. There's nothing to see here. Just move along. Chancellor's like, okay, so where's Sol now? Vernestra's like, well, we found him dead on Brendock. It was probably a suicide. So she tells May that Sol made a mistake, and he justified that mistake over and over and over and over again, always excusing his actions with his love for your sister. And May's like, I have a sister?
Yeah.
Vernestra is like,
oh wait, oh shit. Okay, that would be a weird thing to say to someone who just lost their memory.
Wait, what was her name? Osha. Does the name Osha mean anything? And May's like, Vernestra's like, okay, the Jedi have failed you, but we're gonna make this right. If you can help me find an old student of mine who turned to evil, which I think is confirmation that Khmer was her student.
Is that what she says?
Yeah.
Well then, yeah, I guess that would be, yeah.
So back on the unknown world, Osha is like standing out, looking pensively at the sea, and like she's still holding the lightsaber in one of her hands. And Khmer walks up next to her and kind of holds her hand, clasped around the lightsaber. So they look out of the sunset, and there's this intense music cue. It's really, really good, and fades to black. And then post-credits,
Pre-credits.
Vernestra walks into an open door, and the door closes, and she's like, I apologize for disturbing you, Master, but we need to talk.
Yeah, shit's going down.
And the camera pulls back and down a little bit, and we see a familiar pair of green pointy ears and a wisp of white hair.
Which I'm pretty sure this is a puppet Yoda. He looked like a puppet.
Yeah. It did not look CGI.
Yeah, so that's a cameo I didn't expect to see. Mm-hmm. And we barely see him. I mean, it's like 2 seconds.
Like it's unmistakably Yoda.
He doesn't say anything. You don't see him from the front or anything. But I was still surprised because the showrunners had talked about how they wanted to avoid stuff like that, like empty fan service kind of stuff. Which
then why'd they have the Plagueis cameo?
Yeah, well, no one's seen Plagueis before. I think that's kind of a
like nobody's seen him, but as soon as the episode premiered, everyone knew what he was.
I think what they meant was like we don't want people showing up because they know Yoda's going to be in it, right? Okay. And so
also this is maybe an answer to your question of how high it goes.
Yeah, that's the
because
thing.
Yoda is at least going to have some version of events relayed to him.
Yes. Okay. I have some questions.
Okay.
So first of all, like obviously, what is the deal with Plagueis? Because they're specifically what I'm curious about is what is the relationship between Plagueis and Kamir, which is there is no relationship. Kamir doesn't know he exists, and he's just creeping in a cave. Which a whole other set of questions. Yes. First of which is why would he do that? Plagueis is already the master, and they've futzed with his age a little bit, and he's pitting apprentices together or against each other to pick the stronger one, and figure that out. And this is like pre-Palpatine kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or the most likely, I think, is that Plagueis is the apprentice. And he's doing the same thing where he is exploring options for the person that will be best for him to kill his master with. And that way he has an apprentice waiting when he becomes the actual master.
So you're saying that Plagueis is the apprentice, Tenebris is the master, and Kamir is just like
his side piece.
Okay.
Yeah. And he it's kind of like Vader and Starkiller in Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he's really interested in the mechanics of how Osha and May were made.
Yes.
And I think he's like, oh, wait, this might be the key to life everlasting. So maybe I should try to figure this shit out.
There is a book in the old expanded universe. It was published right before the Disney acquisition, I think, called The Book of Sith. Mm-hmm. And part of it, it's written from various
first person,
various perspectives. There's
in the margin, Palpatine's like, Yoda is such a dick.
Yeah, there is a section that's Darth Plagueis' journal as he's going through all his science experiments, and he talks a lot about using midi-chlorians to create life, which he would be very interested in. Assuming that part of his character is still consistent, he would be extremely interested in how May and Osha came to be.
I think Raincourt is way more significant than we think he is. And it wouldn't surprise me for them to change Tenebris's species, and this is just Tenebris. And where somewhere along the way, the Sith are guys, we need a game plan. Our best shot at galactic dominance is taking it from inside. So this is what we need to do. We always need to be trying to infiltrate the government, so that eventually one of us gets to the top.
Maybe.
There's something about him. There's something silently sinister about him that is either not on purpose and it's just his face, or it's some really brilliant character acting where every scene with him, I was just like, oh God, what is this guy's deal?
I don't know that I buy him necessarily as a Sith, but I do think he's going to end up being very consequential to the story.
Yeah. So we know that Kamir and Vernestra have a former relationship.
They have history.
Yeah. I'm interested to know what the deal with that is and what led to their falling out. It makes more sense now that they probably had a battle.
That would explain the
scar and everything.
Kirby scar.
Yeah. The thing is that he mentions in an earlier episode about that being a lesson that was taught to him. And I can't imagine Vernestra would teach like that. But then again, I wouldn't imagine before this episode that Vernestra would lie like she did.
I wouldn't imagine that Khmer would immediately turn tail and run.
Yeah. Oh, he was freaked the fuck out.
He was out of it.
Yeah. He's like, oh God, mom's here. And he like puts the helmet on. And then that scene, I had forgotten until you mentioned it.
Where she rewrites history?
No, where she says, I needed to talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Who is that?
So first of all, stop playing the pronoun game. Every fucking story leans on this playing the pronoun game to hide the identity of something.
Yeah.
And I generally always hate it because it's a little cheap. But and it's not like you can do the Kill Bill thing where like right before you say the name, it just beeps out.
Yeah.
Like, because that's just, but
it's possible she needed to talk to Yoda, but I can't imagine why they would obfuscate that.
It could have just been to make the last scene more impactful.
Maybe.
Which now that I think of, maybe that very well just could have been it. So some unanswered questions. Mother Coral / smoke monster thing. What the fuck and where the fuck? Pretty much. Like, where did she go? Because they didn't kill her. I think she just turned into Smokey and ran. So I imagine Coral will end up being a part of this somewhere. I'm interested to know what happened to May and Osha is even possible in like the mechanics of it.
I think those might be like, they're almost certainly doing season 2. I think I could see a plot line where Plagueis either goes himself or sends other people to find Coral and bring her back and like ask her what she knows about it. Because or get it out of her by whatever means. Yeah. Because she carried May and Osha, so
if he's wanting to know about it, she would be the place to start.
She presumably knows something about what happened.
Yes.
And number 2, she's just the only adult survivor of that witch cult that we know of.
Yeah.
So
I want to know what the Virgins on Brendock is, because that is not something they explain. We know it's not May and Osha.
There is in the flashback episodes like that big hole that the witches
are like praying at. Yeah.
I wonder if that could be it. It could be the Bunta tree, maybe.
Sure. Actually, yeah. I think the hole is probably more likely.
Or it could be something that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. I think that like now we can kind of expect certain locations in the Star Wars universe, like the cave on Dagobah or the vagina hole on Octo in The Last Jedi. Are vergences, and it's a thing that naturally occurs throughout the universe that the Jedi were trying to, when they cropped up, study and figure out where they were and document it and everything. So we talked about like this conspiracy and like how high does it go, and it would be interesting to me on several levels if Yoda knew enough about all of this to be implicated in the end.
I think by the end of this, Yoda will not know that the Sith were involved because episode 1 still has to make sense, right?
It could make sense with him knowing.
If he's just covering it up?
Well, I mean, like Ki-Adi-Mundi is like, the Sith have been extinct for a millennia, and Yoda's like, dumbass.
Okay.
He doesn't know, but I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of the things that I liked about. So first of all, let me just preface this by saying J.K. Rowling is a piece of shit, and I wish that she didn't own Harry Potter. That being said, I was a huge Harry Potter fan when the books were coming out, and one of the things I really liked about the last book is how there is a side of Dumbledore that is very unsavory. I mean, he was a neo-Nazi pretty much in his youth.
Pretty much, yeah.
And he did grow, like he changed a lot.
He got better.
Yes. But that is still there. And it can't, like it ends up haunting his legacy. And I would be interested in seeing something like that haunting Yoda's legacy, where he knew about this stuff that was going on. Mm-hmm. He wasn't the perfect all-wise God that everyone assumes Yoda is, mm-hmm. that he's a flawed being, and he made a decision that would end up haunting his legacy. I think that would be a really neat way to develop his character. All right. Dragons. I don't want to do a spoiler free thing because I feel like we say the same thing every week, which is that it's amazing, right? Everything about it works. All the performances are great. The fucking visual effects are great. Mm-hmm. Daemon Targaryen running around doing whatever the fuck he's doing is always great. Every time Caraxes is on screen, I just scream because I love that dragon so fucking much. But this is House of the Dragon season 2, episode 5, Regent. We're going straight to spoilers. We're gonna spoil it. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to,
scoot.
Or if you don't care about House of the Dragon, first of all, frankly, fuck you. Like go watch it because it's what
I noticed you're wearing red and black today.
I always wear red and black, and you might notice also that we fly the Targaryen colors in front of my house. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna go through locations, I think, because it's easier for me to think about.
I'll start in King's Landing.
So King's Landing. So like Kristen Cole has this brilliant idea, which is like, let's parade the head of a dragon, a creature that everyone thinks are gods.
Godlike,
Yeah. Let's take Melee's. We'll cut her head off. Mm-hmm. God rest her soul. And we'll cart her around King's Landing, and it will get us so much fucking clout. Everyone will think I am personally amazing. Mm-hmm. And they do that. And that isn't exactly the reaction they get.
The last thing they should have done.
Because everyone's like, why the fuck did you have to kill a dragon, dude?
Some peasants are talking about it. It's like, I thought a dragon was a god. The other one says it's just meat.
Yeah. That's Hugh Hammer, by the way. That's the guy the
blacksmith guy.
Yeah, he comes back a couple of times in this episode.
But that's a big fucking deal for an aristocracy whose power is in large part built on the fear that a medieval WMD might come swooping out of the air and burn down you and everyone you've ever loved.
Yeah. The other problem is that they know now that their only defense against that can also be killed.
Yeah.
So they're like, get us out of this war. Yeah, this is not good.
Get us out of this highly flammable city.
Yeah. They're all starving to death, by the way, because Rhaenyra's doing a blockade at the Gullet and everything.
What's his name?
Corlys
is doing
Corlys and his fucking big navy, right? Mm-hmm. I love how there's a realization where Kristen Cole is like, why aren't they happy?
We won.
All the ladies should be throwing their handkerchiefs at me. I don't understand what's happening. And they're just like, this is a PR disaster.
Yeah.
What would Otto Hightower say about this? You mentioned Hugh Hammer. This guy's got to be a Targaryen, right?
Maybe
like a Targaryen bastard. Good place to remind everyone. I've not read the books or the book, so I have no idea about Hugh Hammer or anything. But he's got very platinum silver hair. So like,
could just be old and graying. I don't know.
He's not that old. He's like a millennial.
Okay.
He's got the fucking top knot and everything. He's not that old. I think he just has platinum hair.
He's a Westerosian millennial.
Yeah. He's got his wireframe glasses.
Yeah.
Avocado toast. So I also like how they're giving Aegon all the credit for like Aegon single-handedly killed Melee's and with one swipe cut her head off and everything. And like okay, so whenever I think of Aemond, I don't know why, the word on paper looks like almond.
Okay.
And in my mind, Aemond just exists as Prince Almond. So do you think Prince Almond cares that they're running around saying, because he was the one that killed Melee's, right? Mm-hmm. You like him in Vhagar, obviously. So they're like trying to up the legend of Aegon, which is funny because Aegon isn't doing too well. No, so there's good news.
Barbecued.
Yeah, there's good news and bad news about Aegon. The good news is that he's alive.
Is that the good news?
The bad news is that he's not very alive. Like, he could literally die.
Marginally alive.
He could die at any fucking second.
He's a little alive.
So they like sneak him in, right?
Mm-hmm. They have him in a box
with like rags thrown over it.
They pull into his room, pull him out. Like it looks like a coffin almost.
It's like when after Trump got COVID. And they're like, we got to show him to the people, but he's really sick. And like, he appeared and he's like barely breathing and shit. It's like, everyone's like, we have to we have to avoid a PR. They cannot see the king melted to his armor. Like, so put him in a box, cover him with rags. We'll deal with this shit later. And Aegon's in the box, like, ow, this hurts so much.
Well, he's not, because he's not conscious.
Yeah, he's kind of like in a coma. It doesn't sound like Sunfire's going to make it, by the way. We find this out in a conversation later between Alicent and Kristen, but they pull him into his bedroom, and the maester dude
start ripping the melted armor off him.
The behind the scenes thing, the way they did this was so his armor is made of Valyrian steel, which is impervious to flame.
Yeah.
Which is why it's darkened and blackened, but it's not damaged, right? So what happened was he cooked inside of his armor, and his body stuck to the metal, which is like, oh god, that's so fucking horrifying. And they have some good prosthetics work with this, where they have like, they're pulling off pieces of the armor and it's like bringing flesh with it and stuff. Alicent is standing there like, if I loved my son, maybe I'd be upset about this, but I really don't.
I made the mistake of watching this scene while eating lunch.
Yeah, don't do that. So I always eat popcorn when I watch House of the Dragon. That's one of those moments where I'm like, I'm gonna put that back. I'm gonna wait a few minutes.
So I actually interpreted Alicent's character a little bit differently. I think she wasn't
that cold. She wasn't as cold as I
think she feels guilty that she doesn't love Aegon more.
Yeah, she's like, why don't I like you?
And she feels guilty that the last conversation she had with Aegon before he went and got barbecued was,
you're a fucking idiot.
Just do literally nothing. You're a dumbass. Yeah. We put you on the throne. Now just look pretty.
Yeah. Almond is hanging out, and he's got the cat's paw dagger. And like, Alicent's sitting there looking at Aegon, and she's like, what?
Excuse
the
me?
Fuck? And the thing that's actually really profound to me about this is the entire last episode, Alicent is rifling through books trying to find what the fuck Viserys meant by the Song of Ice and Fire. The answer is so close to her, and she has Almond doesn't know either. Neither of them know. And it's just like, I'm really hoping that he, like, I don't know, drops it in a fire or something and like realizes what it is, because I think it would be an interesting dynamic to see them, to see both sides be aware of the prophecy and what their reactions to it are. Because I imagine that the Greens would be like, it's fake news. Who the fuck cares about that bullshit? So Alicent and Kristen Cole have a little talk while Kristen's like polishing his sword. Literally.
Giggity.
Not figuratively. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be polishing swords anymore between the two of them after this episode, by the way.
Things are a little strange.
Yeah. Alicent's like, what the fuck happened? And he's like,
I still have a concussion. I have no idea.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I know what happened.
Like, there was fire. I fell off my horse.
I touched a dude and he just reduced into ashes. Can you get away from my room right now? I need to not think about this.
I need therapy, except I'm a man, so I won't ever admit to it.
Yes, I'll just bottle it up. Yeah. So there's a small council meeting where Alicent is pretty much like, look, the king is probably going to die. Someone needs to rule. I've done this job before, and everyone else is like, stop being a hysterical woman and sit down. We're going to pick Almond. And at first, she thinks, she's like, oh, Foot guy is in my corner.
Yes. So like the three, the Lannister guy, the Maester, and I think the Coins guy are all like,
the Laws guy.
Yeah. They're all like, we should do Aemond. And she's like, well, what do you think, Sir Larys? And Larys is like,
she's like pulling her shoe down a little bit. She's like, do you see my foot? And he's like,
Larys
no, Almond.
It should be Aemond.
Yeah.
She's like, well, what do you think, Sir Kristen Cole?
What about my side piece? What about you? And
he's still concussed, but he's like, Aemond.
Yeah, he's having his own existential crisis where he's like, I saw a man melt to death.
Yeah. I saw many men melt to death.
I would like to retire now. But there's this great shot of like, she asks Crispy about it, and she like leans forward, and Larys is staring at him like you've seen more than her feet, I bet. And he is the one that puts it in his court, you might have noticed, because she asks Larys, and he's like, I don't know, but like, Aemond is, or Almond, or who the fuck is like, you girls and I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what I think though. What about Chris and Cole? Because he knows that he's gonna support Aemond.
Yeah.
And knows that he can put a wedge in a little bit between them, and he kind of leans back and watches it happen. He's like, "Yeah, look at this fucking drama I just caused." Because Crispy's like, "Yeah, Aemond, my vote's for Aemond," and Allison's like,
"Excuse me."
Well, no more pussy for you, my friend. And she sits down.
Aemon's like, "Hey, guess I'm the regent."
And he's just waiting for it, right? Because he knows it's going to happen. He stands up. He grabs
the big marble.
Yep. Pops it in. There is this great fucking reaction when they start talking. Everything just starts and they start talking about the war and shit.
Everything just kind of gets muted.
Allison kind of dissociates a little bit. Yeah. And she does this thing where she's like, "Oh my God, what have I done? I am responsible for all of this.
Yeah.
What is happening?" And the base,
the one of her children who really should never have been in a position of power is now in a position of power.
She's like, "Why couldn't have Helena been the queen? God damn it.
Why couldn't Helena be the regent? She'd be great. She'd just be talking to bugs all day.
You're right. She'd have a master, she'd have a master of bugs on the council. They'd be like, "The bugs are doing great today, Your Grace."
Splendid.
Yeah, great. I'm going to my room now.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah. But where are the beasts beneath the boards? So they start talking shop, and Aemond immediately starts making decisions because they're like, everyone's going hungry. That's a problem. And he's like, "Just shut the door so they can't leave." And they're like, "How does that solve that problem?" He's like, "It doesn't. Do what I said. Oh, and by the way, cut the fucking rat catchers down because it's gross that they're even still up there."
Yeah.
Those are his first two official orders, right? Close the doors, trap everyone. I think his reasoning here is if we're cushioned by civilians, Rhaenyra won't storm King's Landing with her dragons. Yeah. Because even losing melees, she still has more dragons. And I'm pretty sure that Caraxes can take Vhagar in a 1v1 anyway.
Maybe.
I know. I like how Rhaenyra thinks that Syrax can. She's like, "Oh, she's quick as fuck, though."
Yeah.
Which may or may not be true, but I'm pretty sure, I have not read the book, I'm pretty sure Caraxes could take Vhagar in a 1v1.
Maybe. Vhagar is really fucking big.
I know, but Caraxes is fucking insane. And that dragon loves to kill things. So my money would be on him. And that neck, I don't even know what the combative application of that long fucking neck is, but I could just see him wrapping it around Vhagar and just strangling her, right? So the moral here is that Alicent is having to lay in the bed that she made. And she's starting to realize that it's a messy fucking bed, and she's starting to have a little bit of a panic, right? So she also has a follow-up conversation with Crispy outside, where she says to him what she meant, where it was like, "So you're only into me when you're fucking me, right?" And he's like,
"Are we doing this in public now?"
Yeah. First of all, I like it. So he's hand of the king, so he's got his little book. He's carrying around and writing in because now he's an academic or whatever. They're dropping the fucking rat catchers while they're having this conversation, and that poor little fucking dog.
Oh, that poor dog.
He'll be all right. They adapt.
Not if there's no fucking food in the city.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Someone like the me of this universe would just feed the dog. So I'm not that. There are a lot of dog people in the world. So she's like, "Just by the way, if it wasn't clear before, we're done fucking." That's no longer a thing, because he gets bold as fuck and calls her Alicent, and she's like, "Oh,
keep my name out of your mouth."
We're not there anymore. So Helena kind of so Aemon's just hanging out with Aegon, by the way, and Helena shows up and just point blank is like, "So was it worth the price he paid?" And then scurries off, and it's like, "God, that girl's so fucking weird."
She knows.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. She probably saw it in a vision somewhere. In fact, I bet if we were to go back in season 1, there's probably a thing about don't get melted in your armor or some shit. So meanwhile, Daemon is still tripping balls at Harrenhal, and he fucks his mother.
Yeah,
because
that's how the episode opens.
Why the fuck not? Yeah,
he's having a very passionate sex scene with his mother,
and it isn't conflicted.
No.
It's not like, oh my God, I'm fucking my mom.
He's totally into it.
He's like going down on her and shit.
Balls deep.
Yeah. And I'm like, he's a Targaryen. I think this is
Targaryen. This is just what they do.
I think this is normal. I think this is just what they are.
I mean, Sigmund Freud would have a field day with this guy, but
well, they burn him alive, like witch. So, he hosts an episode of Fixer Upper for HGTV, where he's like, guys,
this place is a piece of shit. We're gonna fix it.
We're turning it around. He also has a conversation with Alice Rivers about how he's like, I'm gonna be king. And Rhaenyra will rule by my side. And Alice is like, is she okay with that? Because I have a feeling she's probably not okay with that. And he's like, I couldn't fucking care less. So this is where we are. Why is this place so fucking weird? By the way, there is a shot. There's this brilliant shot where they're talking. And then Simon, who I think is just so happy to have people over to his house. Yeah. Like that's it. Like he's like, there are people here. And I get to cook. Like we get to have dinner every night. And
this big castle gets so lonely sometimes. But now there's everyone here.
Like I think so there is the one part where like Daemon keeps moving the goalposts with what he wants to be called. Where he's like, just call me the fucking king. And Simon's like, but you're not the king.
Aren't you the prince?
Yeah, and he's like,
king consort?
I'm married to the queen.
So what would you call that person?
And he's like, you'd call that the king. And then Simon's like, consort. And he's like, just call me fucking. He's like, you know what? I'm just happy people are here. It's fine. But there is this great shot where he and Alice are talking, and Simon walks up, and she walks away, and she passes over his one shoulder. Mm-hmm. But then when he moved, like there's just nothing there anymore. And so now it's like, is he entirely hallucinating Alice? Because have you seen anyone talk to her other than Daemon?
I have not.
So what the fuck? That whole thing now, because no one ever reacts to her.
That's true.
So now I'm like, who is gaslighting me into thinking Alice Rivers is real? So Daemon tries to win over the Brackens, right? So
he shows up with his dragon.
He shows up at their house, and he's like, this is the deal. Pledge to my house, or I'll burn you all fucking alive. And they're like, let me tell you how much I hate the fucking Blackwoods. I hate them enough. Burn me alive, motherfucker. And he turns around on his horse. Like, and this guy's like, oh, this is gonna fucking hurt.
And Caraxes wants to do it.
His head fucking the concept art in the behind the scenes of this is just like how they shot it, where like the guy's riding away on his horse and you see Caraxes come down into frame and you're like, oh, here it comes. And then it cuts away to him and the Blackwood guy just hanging out on the side of the hill. And he's like, why didn't you kill them? And he's like,
David's like, look, these guys would rather.
Well, hold on. So like the Blackwood guys, like Brackens are so fucking, like they're so stubborn. And Damon's like, I know, I kind of love them for it.
Like they were willing to burn alive rather than bend the knee. Like, I could use that
I'm into that. I think
I could use that
sort of
determination
my mom
in my army.
Yeah, right. And so he's like, you know what we should do? And he's like, what? He's like, let's commit some war crimes.
Just go steal all their shit.
Yeah, go steal all the kids.
Kidnap their daughters.
Yeah, and
do unspeakable things.
Yeah. By the way, this isn't kingly behavior.
This isn't me saying to do this.
Yeah, this is like a.
But you should go do it.
It's like a CIA Black Ops thing. Yeah, like this. Like if you get caught, I don't know.
Like you didn't hear this from me, but
and the Blackwood's like, oh, we've been waiting to do this shit to the Brackens forever. Yeah. So let's fucking go. So as a result, the River Lords show up in the middle of the fucking night.
Yeah, like it's 2 a.m.
Yeah, they're like pounding on the door and shit, and like so like Daemon like gets dressed and he shows up and he's like,
"What the fuck do you want?
What is this place? I don't understand. I don't understand how this place works.
Is this a hallucination?
Yeah, are you real? Are you actually here?" Did you guys see the owl lady? Like she says she's a barn owl. I don't know. Like I need to leave. They're like, so the Blackwoods, the Blackwoods took all of our women and our children, and they ate all of our apples, and like now what the fuck?
They pissed on our lawns.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, we think you do. Basically, because we know that you had Jaehaerys killed. Mm-hmm. You had that poor sweet baby go to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yeah.
So let's get something straight. We don't do the tyrant thing here, so fuck the fuck off. And then they leave, and he's like,
That couldn't have waited till the morning.
You're still going to send your armies, though, right?
Yeah.
Because if you are, I don't care about this conversation even a little bit. So we get to see something we've not seen since like the 4th season of Game of Thrones.
What's that?
The Eyrie, which is the family seat of.
The place with the bottomless pit.
Yes, the Moon Door.
Yeah.
The family seat of the Aaron family. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, the entire Game of Thrones story starts off with the Hand of the King, Jon Arryn, being assassinated. That's what starts the whole thing, right? And it turns out that her husband his wife was involved. But yeah, they got the Moon Door.
Yeah.
And there's this really great line in the 1st season of Game of Thrones where when they see the Eyrie, Tyrion Lannister tells his buddy Bronn, he was like, it said it's impregnable. And Bronn's like, get me like 5 good men and some fucking climbing spikes and I'll impregnate the bitch tonight. But they do a callback to this where Jane Arryn, it was like, so here's the deal. We've got the Bloody Gate. Mm-hmm. And that funnels everything into one spot that we can just bombard with arrows. Yes. And so many armies have crashed against the Bloody Gate. None of them have ever broken
Nobody's getting in this place by land.
So we're not worried about that. Let me tell you what we are very worried about, and it's flying nuclear bombs. Yeah, because we don't have the Bloody Gate in the sky. Like, we are entirely vulnerable to dragons, and this is why I wanted my own dragons.
Baela's like, well, I got good news for you.
It's Rhaena.
I'm sorry. Rhaena's like, she's great news.
Dragons. And she's like, those aren't dragons. Those are fucking lizards right now.
Those are baby dragons. Yeah, I needed a big dragon.
Yeah, I wanted one like, I don't know. You can send me like one of the teenager ones or something at least, and
it's one that's at least the size of a cottage.
Yeah, and Rhaena's like,
they grow.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's happening right now with this. Honestly, I think I'm going to Pentos at some point with some of the. I don't know. Yeah. When are we having dinner? And she's like, oh, okay, we'll have dinner soon. Also, Rhaena's, I think, a little pissy that she doesn't have her own dragon. Yeah. Because she never claimed one. I'm pretty sure that maybe...
Oh, she's getting one.
Yeah, I think probably. I think that either Baela or Rhaena were supposed to have Vhagar, but because Vhagar was in mourning when Laena died, that's how Aemon was able to get it. Yeah.
I think Rhaena might end up with Sea Smoke.
I think one of the Hall guys is going to end up with Sea Smoke.
Maybe.
Valerian blood, baby, which we're going to find out is important.
We're going to get there.
So Jace is like...
He's off playing Kingmaker.
Yeah, and he wants to do something because right now he's just like standing around serving beautiful face, which he does very well. Yeah. But he's like, I also got this fucking sword and I got a dragon, and I feel like that's probably like better for the war effort. So he goes on his own sanctioned mission where he's like, I'm gonna go on a mission. Yes. And his betrothed Baela is like, who gave you permission? He's like, motherfucker, I gave me permission. And so at first he's gonna go and try to talk sense into Daemon. And Baela's like, that's fucking stupid.
That's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Like, there is no universe where Daemon listens to you.
Yeah. You're better off like fucking around with a phrase or something. Is like, wait,
a phrase?
That's not a terrible idea. So he takes Vermax down to the Twins. And if you're not a Game of Thrones fan, the Twins is a bridge that connects the northern part of the continent to the Riverlands. They need the Stark army to come down. The Stark army of like old guys.
Yeah.
But without the phrase permission, that never happens. And this is a linchpin in like the first third of Game of Thrones, right? Robb Stark needs to get down to the Riverlands. And so he like shows up to the Twins and they meet. It's like a prisoner exchange, right? In like the DMZ between like North and South Korea.
In the middle of the bridge, like their table is like this door. That
they put it up on bricks. Yeah. Like, you like our table? And they're eating some bread and shit.
Yeah, the phrase are drinking wine, having a good old time.
Yeah. And Jace is like, okay, I need your bridge. I have a dragon.
Yes. How are we going to do this?
Yeah. And they're like, you know what? Give us Harrenhal. You can have whatever the fuck you want. And he's like, It's not mine, but yeah, you can have it.
Harrenhal's kind of big, though.
Yeah.
You're going to also need to bend the knee.
Oh, yeah, that's his other thing. He's like, that's a pretty big ask. So you're going to bend the knee to my mom. And they're like, sold.
Okay, yeah.
Pleasure doing business with you. Here's our bridge. And he's like, wow, that was way easier than I thought it would be.
Jace does all this, like, knowing that he doesn't control Harrenhal, that he can't speak for Harrenhal, that he has no clue what Daemon is even doing there.
He's like, you can have it.
Harrenhal, absolutely. Sold.
You can have it. And when you go down there, tell Daemon to come home because we haven't seen him in a year. We don't know where the fuck he is. So I think this episode opens with Corlys.
Yes. And he is not taking, he's not doing well.
Yeah. I mean, understandably. I think there's an interesting detail about Corlys. When he was younger, his hall on Driftmark was full of these treasures and wealth that he won as a young sailor. He made his own thing, right? Yeah. I mean, he had a good family name, but that family is insanely wealthy because of his exploits at sea. And you find out that he won those exploits for Rhaenys. And now that she's dead, who is it all for? Because that's the only thing that mattered to Corlys. He's like, I got all this pretty shit, but who do you think it was for? It wasn't for me. It was for fucking Rhaenys. And so he's trying to grieve the death of his wife. And probably the most powerful performance of the episode is him sitting on the salt throne, fucking one tear out of his eye, trying to grapple with what just happened. Add to that the fact that Corlys is a very proud man. Most of that was directed in defense of Rhaenys, the queen that never was. His whole thing the whole time was, you should have been queen. Never once did he say, I should have been the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. It was always, my fucking wife Rhaenys should have been queen of the Seven Kingdoms. And he has this obsession with legacy, and now he doesn't have one. No. He's got Baela and Rhaena.
His heir is gone. His wife is gone. Like,
yeah.
What has his entire life been for?
Yeah. And so like now he's got nothing, and like he doesn't really know what to do. Oh. And you have expect him just to fucking walk out to sea and just fucking drown himself or something.
Well, one night he's just standing there drinking, looking out at the ocean, and Baela shows up. She's like, hey.
Well, before this, Baela and Rhaenyra have a conversation. And Rhaenyra is like, okay, so I need you to go talk sense into your grandfather, and I need him as hand of the king or queen. Yeah. And Baela's like, okay, well,
I mean, I can give him the message, but
yeah.
like,
have you met Corlys? Like, I don't know.
He's kind of stubborn.
Yeah. So she shows up to propose him being the hand of the queen, and he barely even registers it. It's just like is she doing this because she thinks I'd be good at it, or is she doing this as a consolation for me losing literally the most important thing in my life? Either one of them, it's like, okay, whatever. Like, none of it matters now anyway. And Baela talks some sense into him, and she's like, I loved my grandmother too, but like, if you think about it, Rhaenys died exactly the way she wanted. She died a Targaryen princess on the back of a badass dragon, setting everything on fire. Like, that's exactly how she would have wanted to die.
There are worse ways to go.
Just like my mother. Like, Targaryens die in dragon fire. That's what they do. And Corlys is like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Right. I'll tell you what. I'll do the hand of the queen thing if you become my heir to Driftmark. And she's like, won't do it. I'm fire and blood. I'm a Targaryen. What you need are those two bastards you have that are salt and sea. They're your heirs. Yeah. So fucking fix this. And she hands him the pin, and like, you're like,
and walks away.
Maybe Corlys has some, like, he's found something that he can kind of like figure out how to like keep going. On Dragonstone. One of the things I love about Rhaenyra is that she's constantly thinking about her weaknesses as a leader. Something no one else ever does, right? And so the thing that she's on this week is that she's not literally a skilled fighter, like all the men are, because like, you know, boys are given to play swords and shit.
Play with swords and learn how to fight and all that.
And she's like, I'm starting to wish that had happened to me because I could really use some ass whooping abilities at this point. And also her small council, she should probably kill most of those guys, I think, because like the one guy says something about the gentler sex. He's like, the gentler sex doesn't know how to do a war. And she's like, bitch, we've been, because of my father, by the way, we've been like 40 years of peace. You don't know anything about war either.
You have seen exactly as many wars as I have.
Yeah, you are the same kind of sweet summer child that I am. So let's shut the fuck up. Neither of us know what the fuck a war is. So stop being such a douchebag. I mean, he's the guy that she sent. So she and Massaria have a conversation about Damon. Right?
I think so. And she's like, I don't want to send a message to Damon on a raven that he can ignore. I'm going to send a human being who can talk to him and bring a message back.
So she sends the guy because he's like, are you sending me away as punishment? She's like,
kind of, yes, but also.
Yeah, I can see why you would think that's true. And maybe it is a little true, but it is actually because of this reason. Because like I need someone to reason with Damon, and he's like, what?
Oh, ain't nobody in the world gonna be able to do that, honey.
And she makes a comment about how, like, I don't know, maybe he's making his own fucking play to the Iron Throne, and he's like, he wouldn't dare. And she's like,
have you met Damon?
He would dare a lot. That's all that man does is fucking push everyone's buttons and dare, right? So during this talk with Massaria tells her, she's like, listen, rumors and information are just as destructive as armies. And I don't think the other side is smart enough to figure that out. They've got Laris, but I don't think Laris is trying to win the war for anyone. I think he's trying to figure out a way to get himself as high as possible, right? So they come up with a little plan, and they send Rhaenyra's handmaiden Alinda to King's Landing to be a spy. So she shows up on Helena's former handmaiden store, the one that Aegon assaults in the first season, that has to drink the moon tea. And she opens the door. She's like, oh my God, Alinda. And she's like, hey, I'm going to be a spy now. Can I crash at your place? And she's like, fuck yeah.
Sure, yeah.
We're all starving to death. I don't know why you're fucking here, but because she had to like get in too,
like,
right?
Well, sort of just like most people are trying to get
it's like
out.
Everyone's trying to get out. What the fuck are you doing
sure
here?
You want to go in?
There's a scene, by the way, Hugh Hammer and his wife and their like real sick kid. He tries to like get him out.
Try to get out, but they get there as the soldiers are closing the doors.
So Rhaenyra sends Alfred Broom to Harrenhal to try to get Daemon to do like something other than fucking his mom the whole time. Jace comes back from his unsanctioned mission, and Rhaenyra wants to be mad at him so bad, but after he tells her what he did, she's like, no, that's pretty bad. Okay. That's really good.
This one's you did good.
Yeah, this was...
But don't ever do that again.
This actually was insanely helpful. Thank you so much, but you're grounded. They discuss their assets a little bit.
Like,
and
we have like 2 guys. The Starks are bringing like 5 more.
We do have a shit ton of dragons.
Yes.
But
we have more dragons than we have riders, which is kind of awkward.
Yeah. Now, they've got Vhagar. And let me tell you, Cyrax is really fast. I'm thinking about just riding over there and trying to kill Vhagar anyway.
Jace is like, you idiot.
Yeah.
Meleys was really fast too, and you saw how that worked out.
So maybe that's not such a great idea. And so she's like, well, we have Vermithor and Silverwing, but we don't have riders for them. And so like what the fuck do we even do with that? Like the dragons need Targaryen blood as in their riders.
The history book says the dragon only bows its head to a dragon lord, and he's like, the books that were written specifically to deify us, like the books that were written so that the common plebs would bend the knee and bow down to us,
and participate in the workforce, pretty much. So like Jace is like, well, hold on a second. Like, they don't have to be Targaryens. They just have to have
Targaryens.
They have to have Targaryen blood. And he's like, here's an idea. Let's throw a bunch of people with Targaryen blood that married out of the family at dragons and see which ones the dragons don't kill immediately. Yeah. And those are the ones that can ride them. And like,
she's like, this is the craziest fucking idea I've ever heard. Yeah. But
I like it. And she's like, you are full of fucking good ideas today, kid. That's fucking
2 for 2.
Get the genealogy tree out.
Yep.
Just figure out who it is.
Go digging through the family tree, find all these Targaryen bastards, and throw them on dragons.
And that's where we land on the end of the episode. Like they're just gonna throw. Like they're like you're a great. Your great uncle twice removed was married to a Targaryen or
was a Targaryen. So meet this
here's
dragon.
Vermithor, and it's like Vermithor just burns him alive. And he's like, well, I guess he wasn't worthy.
Okay, next.
Yeah.
And all of them were like, I'm not going in there. Come on, just think about it. Like, if it works out, you get to ride this really fucking cool dragon.
Yeah. Also,
don't you want to fly?
If it doesn't work out, you'll be dead before you realize what happened. If they burn you alive, they might eat you.
Yeah.
Okay, this actually could go very badly for you, but
but regardless, if it works out,
yeah. So they also have like 3 feral dragons, which have never had riders.
Oh, that's gonna be extra fun.
So they have the cannibal, who is almost as big as Vhagar.
Okay, it's a big dragon.
Practically as big as Vhagar, and obviously, as you can surmise from the name, has experience with
eating dragons,
with dragon on dragon like combat.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is doesn't listen to anybody, does its own fucking thing, right?
Yeah.
They have Sheep Stealer,
okay,
who only eats sheep. Is very extra.
Yeah,
it's like that's my entire diet.
Yep.
And then they have Grey Ghost.
Okay.
Who I don't think anyone's actually ever seen. Grey Ghost might just not exist. Yeah. And then they've got Vermithor, who is King Jaehaerys's dragon, the guy at the beginning that starts the whole thing, right? The old guy, I guess.
The oldest guy.
Yeah, Viserys' grandfather.
Whatever.
Yeah. And they have Silverwing, and so they have like right there they have five dragons and Sea Smoke.
Sea Smoke is lurking around.
Who is pretty big too, right? All of which are riderless. That like if all of them went to King's Landing, Vhagar would be like, surrender. I surrender.
Like, okay, I guess you got it, me.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a quick spoiler drive-by of The Boys, because this is like I think the season finale is premiering like right now, so by the time that you hear this on the podcast it'll be worthless, but I'm excited to see the season finale, because in the preview there's a shot of Newman trying to pop Homelander's head and it doesn't work. And then he just has this realization of, oh my god, you can't do it. What happens next? But so
Sister Sage is putting into motion her plan to assassinate the president, and
which by the way,
extremely bad timing,
or honestly for these showrunners, extremely good timing.
Yeah,
because I bet
oddly prescient. Let's say.
Yeah, I don't think like the showrunners for this show, I don't think they care about that kind of shit. I wouldn't be necessarily surprised, and I'm not saying it's right, that the whole thing with Trump happened and they were like, no way. Like the week before our season finale.
Holy shit.
We could not have been luckier.
Yeah.
Which, yes, bad taste.
Yes.
Which we know that they are like, they have no problem with the bad taste thing.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen the rest of the show?
Yeah. I just like, I started thinking about this where I was like, oh yeah, there's this whole presidential assassination plot. And
which is really fucking awkward right now.
That's just what real life is right now. Which by the I think we should probably weigh in on that, since we just mentioned it. That like, I don't think anyone mentally well on either whatever political ideology they come from, I don't think anyone well tries to take out a former or sitting president. No. It's just kind of like the level of mental illness for you to think that that's your job, like the narcissism in that is kind of insane. I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories on both sides, by the way. Conspiracy theories about how it was staged by Trump, or conspiracy theories about how it's the deep state trying to take Trump out, or whatever, both of which are ridiculous. And I've seen a lot of people who don't know what the Secret Service is or operates like weighing in like they're experts. And I will admit that I'm not an expert on the Secret Service, but having had a family member that I've spoken to about this, who was in the Secret Service, I can tell you that both sides of this conspiracy theory thing is stupid. Like, there are these things about how, like, someone was like, oh, well, the Secret Service sniper like called in for permission, to take the shooter down, and they wouldn't answer him. And it's like, that's not how Secret Service snipers operate. They see a man near the president with a gun and they shoot him. Like, they don't ask anyone for permission. They don't have to. Yeah. Like, those are the rules of engagement. This was happening while we were doing a Battlefront stream, by the way.
Yeah.
I was like reading about this shit in real time while it was happening. And I told them then, I was like, guys, if there was a shooter near the president, he's dead. Like, that guy doesn't walk away from this.
Yeah.
The Secret Service are not police. They have no mandate to peacefully resolve the situation and try to take someone into custody.
They're bodyguards.
Yeah, they eliminate the threat. I also thought it was really kind of neat that we got to see the Secret Service's counter assault team, which is a lot of people don't even realize is a thing that exists in the Secret Service. But in his detail, there's a team whose job it is to run toward gunfire and kill everything. And like, there was a shot, it was the guy with the machine gun, pretty much, that like stepped up on the stage and was like, well, who am I going to fucking shoot today? Right. But it's just, I figured might as well weigh in on that. I think that's why when shit like this happens in The Boys, we're like, this is too real life to be comfortable for me to actually enjoy this as entertainment, because this is how our world kind of actually is. Everything from the VOT corporate machine and the PR and like the politics and everything about it is just like, this is what is literally happening in the world right now. And it's so fucking weird. And it's surreal even. Those writers are so good at like picking out the things that are really wrong with our society and laughing at it. It's just like, do I laugh at it or do I cry? Because I'm not really sure which one, because sometimes it's really fucking hilarious. Yeah. But at other times it's like, oh, that's our reality. I should move to Norway or something. But anyway, this episode, this is the one with the puppets in it, right?
Yes. So
I saw it last week. Like, it's been a week since I've seen it.
What's his name? The
Ryan?
kid. Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan is supposed to...
I think they pitched his voice up, by the way.
Maybe.
Because his voice is really high for a boy his age.
Yeah. So Ryan is supposed to be part of this Vought puppet show where they're like,
it's Avenue Q.
Yeah. Encouraging kids to, rat out their parents if they're being unpatriotic.
Fight the woke machine.
Ryan's like, hey, this is kind of fucked up. And the director's like, yeah, but your dad told us to do it this way, so I don't want to get lasered.
Or exploded. Yeah. Oh, they visit Web Weaver at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And we're not going to talk about the gross part of it, which was disgusting, but I thought it was really funny. They did a little Avengers Infinity War call out where Web Weaver, who is this universe's Spider-Man, says, "I don't feel so good." And Homelander just fucking tears him in half in front of Firecracker, who is like, "Oh,
I don't know how I feel about that."
Yeah, maybe this exactly is not what I expected out of this arrangement.
Yeah.
You can suck on my titties if you want, but I don't know if ripping men in half is the thing I want to see. And Homelander is just like,
whatever.
Best way to deal with this problem, honestly. You mentioned Sister Sage. She
makes a deal with a shape-shifting soup who...
Yes, that is what the team discovers.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that they are meant to have discovered that.
Could very well be.
I think even so, this whole thing ends as far as Sister Sage goes. She gets fired.
Yes.
Right? Because they find out that she was like,
she knew protecting the mole, and Homelander's like, get the fuck out of here.
How much of all of this, even her being fired and kicked out, isn't just part of her plan anyway?
That's hard to say. I felt like she was genuinely surprised that she got fired, but that could have been acting.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if that was a part of the plan and you needed to convince Homelander that it was something you didn't expect.
Yeah.
And in the process, reinforced Homelander's opinion that, oh, she's not all powerfully smart.
Yeah.
Like, you're smart, but I'm wise.
Yeah.
So because he's a narcissist, so he can't accept anyone being at a higher level than him anyway.
Yeah.
So that just reinforces his, he's like, oh, she didn't even see that coming. How fucking smart could she be?
So at one point, Homelander sends the Deep and Black Noir to go kill the boys.
I'm so tired of the Deep, Chris. They didn't kill him. No, they didn't kill either of them. They limped their ass back to Vought after that. But I really thought they killed him at one point during that fight, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Well, they end up fighting Starlight and Billy Butcher, and it's not going super great for the good guys.
I hate what he says to Starlight in the scene. It's really gross.
He's really gross.
He
like, that's the whole point of the character.
Yeah, because he sexually assaults Starlight, like in season 1 or 2 or something, right?
Season 1. It's like
or harasses her, and then like takes back his apology and like validates,
like, Me Too is over, bitch.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh God, I hope your squid strangles you. But I guess he killed.
Yeah, he killed the squid, so that's not happening.
Do you know what voice actor plays the squid?
I don't.
It's Tilda Swinton.
She just hams up this role.
I know.
Like, how else are you going to play a talking squid who fucks a man?
You know that, like, in the writers, or like in the, like, they're like, who do we get to voice? Who do we get to voice the squid? And everyone at the same time is like Tilda Swinton.
Probably because Julie Dench turned him down.
Judi Dench?
Judi Dench.
Oh, that would have been really funny.
Yeah. But, I mean, Tilda Swinton does.
Or like Patrick Stewart or something.
I mean, Tilda Swinton does a fantastic job.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I appreciate that if you don't know who Tilda Swinton is, she plays like the Ancient One in the MCU, and she's in a bunch of shit. She's a fantastic actor. I imagine that they probably, like, of course they paid her what she's worth, but I would imagine that she might have done that for free if they'd asked when they just pitched the character to her.
Just such a ridiculous character.
They're like, you're a squid that a superhero fucks. She'd be like, sold.
Like, I am never gonna have another opportunity to play this character in my life.
Roll of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Sign me up. So yeah, he kills her, and it's like,
it's kind of traumatic because, like, she gasps for like multiple minutes.
She does a Deadpool.
He's like, "Are you dead yet?" She's like, oh, but I love you. It's like, just fucking die already, Jesus.
They play it a little too much.
A little bit,
because it happens like 3 different. It literally is like the end of Deadpool 2. So
A-Train shows up.
She's not going to get to move into that fish tank above the bed like she wanted.
So anyway, while that fight's going on, A-Train shows up and beats up Deep and Black Noir and saves them, and that's how they discover.
Which exposes him.
Yeah. So he runs into what's her name, the CEO.
Ashley. Yeah.
So he runs into Ashley. I was like, look, this is our chance. We can get away. We can fucking go to Florence or wherever you want to go.
Which was her idea.
Yes.
To begin with.
Yes. And she's just like, I can't. Like, I thought about it, and I just really, really like having power.
Is that her reason?
She says that she can't go. I don't remember exactly why.
I'm not sure she has a reason, and I think that's why it confused me. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
it's like, all right, fine, and fucks off.
Because she gets, like in the previous episode, she gets kind of drunk and proposes that exact same thing.
Yep.
And the Deep is like, or A-Train is like, you need to pull your shit together.
Yeah.
There is a monster madman who is the de facto CEO of this corporation that has super hearing, by the way, which I always notice that the superhero hearing only works when they need it to in the story, which is fine. That's superhero shit. But I was really interested to know why Ashley I wonder how much of her debasement by Homelander kind of gets her off.
Maybe. I mean, we know she's in some really weird shit.
Yeah. She's usually in the other position, though, right? Like, she's usually the one degrading other people. And it makes me wonder maybe if it's something she doesn't actually... There has to be something keeping her there, right? Because, like, her being there has a clear...
threat?
Well, it affects her in a negative, physical way.
Yeah, like her hair is falling out.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That whole thing is weird. Going forward... She's probably a wild card. I don't know. Maybe she's the one that ends up killing Homelander. I don't know. Maybe she's really a soup.
So Samir, the legless geneticist, is working on
one-legged.
One-legged.
He's got one leg.
One-legged geneticist is working on recreating the virus under the supervision of Frenchie and Kimiko. And Frenchie and Kimiko have some moments where they,
which, by the way, you've got Frenchie, who is pretty much like,
he's like, look, I have made cocaine and hallucinogens with some shit I've got out of a dumpster behind Dollar General. We can make this work.
He's like the trailer park meth cook in Breaking Bad, and this guy is like the Walter White, right? Who is like a trained chemist and whatever. And he's like, did you spit in it? Like, did that work?
Yeah.
He's like,
no.
I guess I didn't try that.
That's not how science works.
Yeah. Then later he's like, I spit in it. Hey, it kind of worked.
Frenchie and Kimiko like bond over their trauma and their guilt, and
also they clear the air a little bit. Kimiko is really upset at him because he just fucks off, right? And turns himself in and is in prison, and like won't see, like she wants to like see him in prison, and he doesn't let her and shit.
So at the end of this, Samir like has this one syringe of the virus, and he like jabs it into Kimiko's leg, and Frenchie's like, okay, this is going to be really fucked up, but just bear with me here. I need you to bite down on this while I saw your leg off.
Yep. This is where John and I both looked away. We're like, no, I don't need to see this.
Fair.
Which also, she's just going to grow back.
Yeah. That's her power.
Yeah.
But Butcher's like, okay, well, we have her leg, which we know has the virus in it, so we can just fucking make that work. And like
everything's good news to Billy Butcher. Yep. They're like, we had to cut her leg off. And he's like, great.
So like the very last reveal of this episode is that the shape-shifting soup, who's probably going to kill the president, is currently wearing Starlight's body.
And fucks Huey.
Yep. While wearing the Starlight costume.
Yeah, I was like,
it's a little weird.
Poor Huey. They shit on Huey so much through this season.
But I mean, honestly, if you're dating a superhero and you don't get to fuck them in costume, like what's the point?
Yeah. Why am I even here?
Yeah.
That was kind of a big red flag at the beginning of that scene, because like she's so against wearing the Starlight costume, and then she just walks in with it on. And I didn't realize what was happening, but even I was like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. Like what was the sudden, like, I get putting it on and being like, okay, I'm going to act the part of Starlight to take down Homelander and whatever. Yeah. I didn't expect and it turns out that it wasn't her being like, oh, let's get frisky while I wear the Starlight thing. That felt really weird. And it turns out it's because
it wasn't.
So she's chained up somewhere.
Yeah. Possibly in a saw trap.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So yeah, that season finale is tonight. We'll let you know how it goes next week. I'll probably watch it tonight. I don't know. It depends. So anyway, if you stuck with us through this whole thing, first of all, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I will be here tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday with some Battlefront with the boys. Not the boys, but like Gremlin Squad.
The squad.
Next week, we'll have our show at a different time than usual. We'll let you know when we've ironed that out, because I have a gig on Wednesday night. I have to go play. And then Sunday, Dungeons and Dragons Season 2 is happening. So come and watch us roll for our characters and decide what planets we're from.
Find out if anyone dies, because that's a thing that can happen in Traveler character creation.
Yeah, but yes, my entire goal in this campaign is to be an assassin and to have some kind of animal, preferably a dragon. If not a dragon, then a dog.